I've got the Wave XLR Pro, and this is the bet that Elgato just made this week. The bet to launch a powerful and user-friendly interface with a lot of inputs, outputs, but without any physical button at all. So it's just a brick, a nicely made and cool brick, but no faders, no dials, no buttons. It's a wild move, of course, but let me tell you, I've used this device for the past 3-4 weeks almost, and it's intriguing, but probably is not for everyone. This video is sponsored by Elgato, but as always, I want to share my honest opinion, hands-on opinion, in full transparency. But guys, be sure to check other videos, of course, of this product to pick and choose and decide if it's something that fits your needs, and don't buy just because it's new. So let's talk about it.
Hey, it's me, Luca, and over the last few years, we've gotten used to interfaces like the Go XLR, which a lot of people still use even though it's not supported anymore. The RODECaster Pro 2 from Rode, which I love, great device, but all of these devices have one thing in common, which is faders, knobs, and buttons. I mean, you have to control it by hand only. Elgato here did the opposite. They said, what if we take out every button, every knob, every fader and run the Wave XLR Pro only through Stream Deck and Wavelink? And it sounds brave, it sounds again intriguing, but maybe Elgato, more than anyone, has the power to pull this off, if you think about it. The strength is in the ecosystem, and the fact that you actually can create a custom interface into your Stream Deck, it's again amazing, because if you think about it, all the physical buttons are really personal, giving you the option to customize the buttons 100%, thanks to how flexible the Stream Deck is. Even Stream Deck Mobile lets you build your own way to handle audio. And on top of that, dropping the physical buttons, as you can imagine, lets you build a really high-performing interface on the hardware side and cut costs on screens, knobs, and physical faders. And if there is one thing I liked, and it's worth keeping in mind, it's that this mixer is built completely into hardware, and that's a huge advantage because Wavelink is the software you use to control it, the Stream Deck is the physical part you use to control it, but the software isn't doing all the work. The monitoring effects, the microphone effects, and all the mix management happens in the device. And you are not relying just on Windows audio or Mac audio or other possible glitches and software issues. And look guys, I've worked with this device for years now, and so many times, you know, if you've done the same, you run into audio delays, microphone monitoring lag and weird glitches. So the idea behind the device is simplify things, but with real power and in a user-friendly way. Speaking of hardware, this interface has maybe the most wave look of all the device Elgato has recently released, with this wave shape across the top. We've got a premium matte plastic body that looks nice, and overall it's compact and light. And Elgato has also added the option to mount the interface out of sight under your desk or even on a tripod, thanks to a 1/4-inch thread on the bottom, just the standard one. Another cool thing of having no buttons is that you can actually make the interface disappear just under the desk and let just do its job on its own. On the front there is a status LED. When it's white it means that the interface and the mixes are running super fine, and on the side of that we've got the first headphone input in 2 versions. We have the 3.5mm jack available and the 1/4-inch. If we flip the XLR Pro around, there's a lot of good stuff, guys. 2 USB ports, one to connect to the computer, one cable does it all, which if you saw my last video on the Wave system, I really appreciated that. There's also a second USB aux input and output that opens up a whole world, giving you the option to work with audio from a console an iPhone, a smartphone. If you run a 2-PC setup for gaming or streaming, then to get your mic, your game audio and your streaming software all talking to each other, you usually have to lean on workarounds. What the Wave XLR Pro does is pull all together, and in hardware it acts as a control center for both machines. The game audio flows into Wave XLR Pro through this port, and the Wave XLR Pro sends audio back to the gaming PC the same way, so your teammates in-game can hear you loud and clear with all the effects on the microphone we're about to listen. We've got the line in and line out. For me, these are crucial, especially the line out, because it lets me send the mix signal with all the effects processed in hardware straight out to the camera, which is amazing. That means I can skip syncing audio and video in post, recording in separately, and I can use XLR mics with the effects applied of any kind and send them directly to the camera. I'll show you how to do this later in the video and some drawbacks as well. We have of course 2 XLR ports for microphones, up to 80 decibel of super clean gain, and of course we have the 48 volt phantom power for condenser microphones. Basically on both the headphones and the mic side we've got a strong built-in preamps and amps that can easily handle like headphones up to 600 ohms, both in port 1 and port 2. On top of that, it's worth pointing out that when the interface gets power, it works in standalone mode. So let's say you've got like a PS5 connected and your PC it's off, it's turned down. That's no problem. The audio signal comes through anyway. But if I know you well, I know you're here for the effects, so let me just say it. The Wave XLR Pro is a top-tier system for handling audio effects, probably the best and above all the most intuitive I've ever tested recently. And in my video on the Wave XLR Mark II, I went deep on this and I recommend you to going back and watch it. But to give you an idea on how the bass effects sound with no tweaking at all, here we the effects. And this is without the effects. How I sound? I hope worse. But anyway, you've got clip card, low cut, expander, compressor, EQ and voice tune all in hardware. This means zero latency on monitoring, as simple as that. And on top of that, handled in software, there is also voice focus, an effect that uses AI to basically isolate your voice. Usually you'd pay for something like this, but you get it free when you buy the device. And honestly guys, you'll find all of this in the Wave XLR Mark II too. Hardware-wise, I mean, but it's called Pro. This one is called Pro, right? So there are 2 more effects there I liked, which are the ducking and the maximizer. Ducking is really simple to get. Basically, all in hardware again. When you turn it on for an audio source, let's say for a microphone, the moment it kicks in, the other audio sources get turned down automatically. Say you've got like music, and you want it quite loud, quite nice when there is silent, where you are not talking in a live stream, but you want that it drops out automatically when you talk. Turn the ducking on the microphone and you are set to go. Got a guest on a podcast live or online who's the type of guy who talks over everyone? Okay, you can just turn ducking on, and when you start talking, his volume gets turned down automatically. That's pretty great. Always like a good ducking system. Even when I was using the Rodecaster Pro, I was using it a lot and is very helpful, even for a solo creator. A strange but pleasant addition is the maximizer, which basically takes any output mix you choose and makes it more punchy, boosting the loudness without ever clipping and keeping the audio very, very clean. I'm using it now, for example, and I'm sending the audio to the camera with a little bit of maximizer to just have the audio very nice and punchy. My take on this device is that Elgato's bet pays off on the long run. Not just for this device, but with future products as well. Being able to manage a 2 microphone with such quality in an easy and user-friendly way is just so nice, so good, and really deserves credit in my opinion. And guys, having that line out to send audio to the camera directly with effects, it's a real game changer. Sure, it all goes through the noisy and not amazing preamps on the mirrorless mirrorless cameras, but by dropping the input to a minimum, because I'm using on the Sony camera just one, and roughly the 40% on Wavelink, you get, as you can hear, a really nice sounding audio. Just have to grab a classic 3.5 TRS cable, plug it into the line out on the Wave XLR Pro and into a ground loop isolator, and then into the camera. The ground loop isolator is useful because if you're not using that, you can hear like a hiss sound, which is not great. And one point to Chutlink Pro. So if you have the Chutlink Pro from Elgato, you can use that one to do the same, basically, because it has like a ground loop isolator built in. So which is quite nice. In Wavelink, I'd suggest creating a dedicated mix output, click the little pen icon, add the line out, adjust the volume as needed, and you're good to go. It's also for people that want an high-performing device but don't have much audio experience, and honestly, I don't mind thinking of this device as a podcast interface with a guest either. Being able to build the physical side on Stream Deck lets you dedicate even a Stream Deck to a guest. With maybe two knobs, you can control like volumes and everything. I'm aware that the lack of faders and physical buttons in general, and the fact that it depends on a computer at the end, could be a limit for some people. It's probably not the device I'd recommend to someone doing podcasts on the run in wild places, but if you think about it, in any podcast setup, there's always a computer around. So in my opinion, that's not really a big issue. And in the end, I think it's the most high-performing, user-friendly, guys, interface I've ever tried recently. And if one mic is fine, one pair of headphones, it's fine. Guys, there's this one. You can buy this one, and it's probably $190 cheaper, $190 cheaper. I mean, not bad. It basically gives you the main effects you need to sound great, and it works great. Other than that, this device, the Wave XLR Pro, it's an interface I'd strongly recommend, especially if you already are in the Elgato ecosystem. Here you can find a detailed video on Wavelink, the 3.0 software, and this is the video about the Stream Deck Plus XL. Ciao amici.